Welcome to That's a Tap. I'm CT. I'm with my man DJ, and we're here to preview a big one. The UFC 290 card is stacked. International Fight Week. I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
Feeling great, CT. Good to be here. Good to talk to you. We've been sort of we missed a couple of these episodes,
Mm.
but hey, look, we're trying to get back on track now, and we're expecting a smooth run here on out. And but what a month to get things restarted. July. You can consider that the international fight month for the UFC. Obviously, they do the big international fight week card, which is what's coming up
Mm.
this weekend. Not just because of that, it's also a big card because we've got a lot of local talent, scattered across that card, including the main event. Some big names there. And it's a crazy month. What a way to kick off, sort of. I know the Sean Strickland card took place, but after that, we're now going straight into the two big pay-per-views that we're looking forward to. Both of them stacked to the brim. You even made a comment offline saying that the Utah card is one of the most stacked cards you've seen. So hey, I know we're here to talk about 290, so let's focus on that because there's a lot going on, and we're going to try and condense all of that into our segment today. So let's start at the top. CT, what is your thought on the main event?
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. Obviously, I was there in the building in Perth to see Volkanovski lose his uh, lightweight bout against Islam Makhachev. But really happy to see Volk get back in the cage again, defend his featherweight crown. Um, and then I think he's got a really good opponent, Yair Rodriguez, really exciting fighter, flashy. The way he destroyed Josh Emmett, I saw that in person, and I think he's going to give Volkanovski a good challenge. But I think Volkanovski is going to be too strong. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, man. Like I agree with you. Um, you know, Rewind to February, RAC Arena. You were there in
Mm,
person. We witnessed one of the most legendary fights in terms of technicality and
mm,
skill level. A very high level fight between the lightweight champion Islam Makhachev and the featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski, who stepped up to 155 pounds to go challenge for that title. A very contentious bout. Widely, a lot of fans were split in the middle. There were a lot who were saying that Volkanovski won. There was a fair bit of people who were saying, Islam won. So kind of speaks volumes of the skill level of that fight and then the fighters. Um, Unfortunately, the decision didn't go Volkanovski's way. But then, hey, in true to his style of fighting and sort of how his career spanned out, making a quick turnaround and then looking at the next best challenger, who also happened to be in that same card in third. It was in the main event, fighting for the interim featherweight title. Yair Rodriguez, he took on Josh Emmett, and pretty much put Josh Emmett away in dominant fashion, man. And then just took that's triangle submission, won the belt, and now International Fight Week in July. I always felt that Yair Rodriguez was someone coming up and didn't really get the respect that he deserved. And I think that's a
yep.
reason we're seeing that change since the very similar to Volkanovski as well, and we'll touch on that. But we saw him have that you know fantastic knockout of the Korean Zombie. He was losing the entire fight, and then man, he pulls it's an overhand elbow out of nowhere and knocks Zombie out. And then obviously, he's been plagued by injuries as well. He had to step away. There was that big Sabit fight that was always teased but never panned out, and then obviously he fought Jeremy Stevens, ended unceremoniously in Mexico where because of the eye poke, and then led the rematch and he obviously beat him comfortably, and then he had the fight with Max Holloway. I thought it was a much closer fight than a lot of people sort of saw it as. While Holloway definitely won the fight, but it was a much closer fight, and he gave Holloway a good run for his money, and then we saw him try and fight Ortega, didn't pan out. There was an injury, and then now obviously for Josh Emmett, he got the interim title, laid claim to that number one contender spot. And look, he's fighting now. Having said all that, look, he's got a unique style. His kick dexterity is what gets spoken about a lot. Very unique in terms of not just the way he kicks. He's obviously a kickboxer, but also the aggression that he brings, the pace, and sort of how he leads the fight with his kicks. Having said that, man, unfortunately for him, he's going up against one of the best pound for pound fighters currently, which is Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who himself, wasn't really getting the credit he deserved in the beginning, even up until that second Max Holloway fight. But then we started sort of. If you look at Volkanovski's resume, man, he's fought the best of the best. He's always fought the top tier guys, and he's beaten some big names. And then obviously we had that Ortega win, and then we had the Holloway shutdown, and then the Korean Zombie fight where it was a one-sided domination again, and sort of we saw Volkanovski breaking away from the pack and sort of establishing himself as this elite fighter. And look, every time he's gone up against someone, he's always had some sort of challenge in front of him. Even with the Holloway fight, we was talking about the range, sort of Holloway's, striking volume. We've spoken about Ortega's submission threat, but sort of Islam Makhachev. Look no further than his last fight. He fought a phenom who, up until that point, had been destroying his opponents, including the very impressive Charles Oliveira. He submitted him, he knocked him down, submitted him, right, and won that belt, and arguably, won that fight against him. Gave the toughest fight to date, gained a lot of respect, gained a lot of fans, sort of established and cemented himself as a pound for pound great. The fact that he lost the fight and still was be able to retain that number one pound for pound spot until John Jones obviously came back. That speaks volumes of that performance. I think he gained a lot more fans in that loss, than Islam did with a win. And man, right now he's back to the division that he's been ruling for a very long time. I saw a stat the other day. He's been one of the longest reigning champions in the history of the UFC. And look, he's looking at another title defense, and he understands the threat that Yair Rodriguez brings. And I think in this entire game, you can never find someone who prepares as much as Volkanovski based on the way it's sort of the videos we've seen and sort of the output, the fights, the way they pan out, the level of preparation and dedication that he has is amazing, second to none. So I think that's going to show again, and he takes every fight seriously. I do think he's going to edge out the victory. But hey, here's the thing, CT. How do you think he gets it done? If that is your prediction, if you think Volkanovski is going to have his hand raised, what do you think? How do you think he gets it done?
Yeah, I think he gives him a stoppage. I'm predicting stoppage in the third.
Yeah,
Volkanovski, he's got a point to prove coming off this loss, and I
yeah,
feel like this is that kind of fight that is going to add to his legacy because he wants that number one pound for pound, but we also know he wants to be really active, so
yeah,
he's going to continue to gain respect in the MMA world. I think being active, getting another defense for his
yeah.
featherweight crown. But what are you thinking?
Man, I agree with you. I also think it's going to be a stoppage purely because of the way
Ooh,
Yair Rodriguez fights. Right, he's very aggressive,
yeah,
put pressure, and
flashy.
for flashy, and Volkanovski deals well with that. Man, I can guarantee you, he's prepared well for that. And we know Volkanovski's got a gas tank for days. We saw him fight Islam Makhachev. We've seen the pace
Yeah,
he set. So I think he's gonna be able to match that pace that Yair Rodriguez brings, and he's gonna find a
yeah,
lot of open while he's very flashy and aggressive. Yair Rodriguez, that is, he does leave a lot of opening for your opponent to land. And when you come across someone as elite and as precise as Alexander the Great Volkanovski, you can guarantee some of those shots are going to go through, and some of those shots are going to land and find the mark. And I feel like that's going to result in a stoppage. Um, like I said, nothing to take away from Yair Rodriguez. I think he's one of the best in the division. Extremely glad that he's getting the recognition that so very well deserves. Yeah, like I
Mm.
just think
Yep.
he is going against one of the pound for
Agreed.
pound best.
Yep. And with the
What is that?
odds,
Yeah, I was going
yeah.
to say, man, what do the odd makers say?
So yeah, Volkanovski's in the Australian sports betting. Alexander Volkanovski's $1.26 and Yair 3.90.
Okay,
So
wow,
all the
that's a
the local money with us, obviously.
yeah,
But I think that'll be very similar with Vegas too. Um,
yeah,
you know, I think given his dominance in this division, right, it's going to take a colossal effort. This could be one of the biggest upsets if it were to
yeah.
happen.
It'll be a big upset, absolutely.
Mm,
Um, Oh, look, maybe I'll retrace that a bit. Like, I wouldn't say a big upset, but it'll definitely be an upset. Obviously, like, a
yeah,
lot of people are expecting, especially after the performance in that fight in Perth. A lot of people are expecting
yeah,
Alexander Volkanovski to get the win. So, yeah, man.
yeah,
Um, but hey, look, let's see how it goes. Like I said again, we're talking about an organization where the best fight the best, right? Every fighter is there for a reason because they're good. They've been able to climb the ranks, and even Yair Rodriguez wasn't just given this position. He had to earn his way up, and he has fought some killers and top contenders. So let's not
yeah,
forget that. So it's a good matchup. It's an exciting matchup. A very worthy main event for International Fight Week.
yeah. Hopefully that does come true and he gets the stoppage, and then we can look to Sydney in September. But we'll look at that in the wash up and our weekly roundup when this
Yeah.
result is in the books. But the co-main, Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I love it. Every time the assassin baby fights, we tune in, right? He brings the fire. Always exciting. It's just like a good energy about him, even leading up to fight week, leading up to the fight week. Even if you look at all the
Yeah,
embedded episodes, you can see that sort of like he's got this aura about him where he's like extremely calm, confident, has a positive energy about him, and then when the cage closes, man, he becomes this some other person where he just fights just like his name, like an assassin. And look, man, I'm always excited to see him fight. He's had some big wars, and he's come come on top of most of those. Obviously, came short on that one occasion to Davis and Figueiredo, but other than that, his title run has been quite good, even capturing the interim title against Kai of France. But here's the thing, and this is why I like this storyline. I like this arc is that this is not the first time these two are fighting, and that's also in the UFC. They've fought twice before in the UFC, and here's an interesting. Here's where it gets more interesting: is that Brandon Moreno has lost to Alexander Pantoja twice previously, so he's 2-0 going into this fight, but going in as a champion, right? So he's going against a guy who's beaten him twice. So obviously, Pantoja's going to have that mental edge. The first time they fought was in a tough matchup where Brandon Moreno got eliminated by Alexander Pantoja, and then another one on a UFC card again, a decision where Moreno lost. Man, if you've seen Pantoja fight, he is extremely explosive. He's extremely talented, extremely well rounded, right? It's just that he's been plagued with injuries, and we haven't seen as much of him. But the little we see of him, we see how he comes out and he demolishes his competition. We saw his fight against Paris, where he just pretty much got on his back and submitted him. It was just it wasted no time. Um, and even after Moreno got the win over Davies and Figueiredo, we saw them sort of go back and forth and backstage where Pantoja was saying, "Oh, look, it's my turn now. Let's go." He's extremely confident. Um, Man, it's interesting, right? I think in terms of skills, they're well matched. It just comes down to sort of how the fight, who's the better man on the day. What do you think?
yeah. You raised some great points about the previous history between these guys. I hadn't quite realized, so thanks for mentioning.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah, this is going to be a case of Moreno's sort of big fight experience. I think, going through those wars against Figueiredo, for me, gives him the slight edge.
yeah,
But like you said, Pantoja is extremely dangerous, has that history against him. And I do
Yep.
think that, in one slip up, one mistake could prove costly. So it's
Yep.
actually closer in the betting. Moreno 150, Pantoja 250.
Oh
So
wow.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, I agree. It's a guy who's beaten you twice, but hey, let's not have that um, hang over this fight too much. The reason I'm
Mm,
saying that is, look at Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, right? He's beaten him twice before, and Izzy was able to come back and get that win. Same thing, right? So I do agree with you. I feel like Brandon Moreno's been a lot more active. He's had, more championship fights.
yep,
He's obviously definitely leveled up and up, got better in his game as opposed to the last time these two fought. It was a while ago. And then obviously Alexander Pantoja, while he's extremely good, he's had those breaks in between as well.
yep,
And so and he had to wait till the quadrology between Figueiredo and Moreno came to an end too. So there's been long waits as well. So I think in terms of championship experience and championship fight experience, I think is Moreno's obviously got the edge there. And another thing that I look at Moreno and I see is that he since the last time they fought, Brandon Moreno wasn't as big a star as he is now, right?
yeah,
Uh, right now, he's one of the biggest stars in the UFC. Everyone loves to see him fight. He gets a big pop wherever he fights, right? And then we see the confidence that he'll be able to draw from that, sort of enhance his ability and sort of his performance in that octagon. That's what I feel. So yeah, look, I'm giving the edge to Brandon Moreno, man.
yep. And how do you see it playing out?
I feel like it's going to be a close fight. I just feel like it's going to be a decision. I think it's going to be a
Yep.
decision, and Brandon Moreno will have his hand raised. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a split decision, though.
Okay. Yep. I'm giving you the same. I agree on that
Yeah,
one. But the third fight is another Australian, Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper, Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. And this has got huge ramifications, again, based in Sydney. We know
yeah,
Adesanya awaits the winner, most likely in a main event. Um, one of my favourite fighters. I know one of yours. For
absolutely.
me, I don't know much about du Plessis, so why don't you? I want to hear your thoughts on what kind of challenge do you think this is going to be for
Yeah,
Whittaker?
yeah. Hey, look. First of all, love the fight. Love it every time Robert Whittaker fights. We've known each other for a long time now. We've been, following the UFC for a very long time now, and we've been
Mm,
massive fans of
yep.
Robert Whittaker, right? I just love his style of fighting. Love who he is as a fighter, and also outside of the octagon as well. It commands a lot of respect, not just with us, but with the wider MMA community as well. Number one contender, man. I mean, obviously outside of Israel Adesanya, right? He's beaten everyone who's been put in front of him in that middleweight division, right? Um, we got Dricus du Plessis on the other end, the South African, right? Obviously, he garnered a lot of attention uh, after his last fight with Derek Brunson, where he made some comments in that post-fight, maybe the post or the pre-fight press conference where, or media day, where he spoke about sort of the heritage of the champions and sort of wanting to establish himself as the first African champion. Obviously, that didn't sit well with some of our other champs in other divisions, such as not other divisions, but some of the champs in Kamaru
Mm,
Usman and obviously Israel Adesanya. So there's a lot of interest in that matchup. Even the fans were on board. So it was a bit surprising initially when this fight was announced, because obviously getting through Robert Whittaker is no easy task. And I feel like the UFC, I mean, they got that fight right there in front of them, and obviously would have added attention of the MMA community had they made that fight Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. Just to talk about Dricus du Plessis as well, like man, like I mean, he is he's got a very aggressive style. If you look at his fighting style, and I think Whittaker in one of the media day interviews said it best. He just never gives up. He never quits. There's no quit in the guy. No matter how you can go to the brink of defeat, and he finds a way to come back. We saw that in the Darren Till fight. We saw that in the Derek Brunson fight as well. There was an element of his opponents underestimating him as well. Like, who is this guy? Like, I mean, obviously not known at that time, not as popular. And then obviously, paying the price for that. Look, do I think he's a good fighter? I do think he's a good fighter, especially sort of he can fight wherever the fight goes. He is a big unit as well, right? I mean, his cardio is always come into question. He seems to tire out, but then we had that revelation from his team where he's had this situation in his nose where he couldn't breathe properly. So now that's been fixed. So maybe that could give us a different Duplessis. Having said that, though, man, I'm gonna go with Robert Whittaker, man.
Yep, 100% agree. I think he's going to be too quick for him, too technical.
Yeah,
He's going to put on a clinic. But
man.
the odds also agree with Whittaker 126,
Yeah,
Duplessis 390.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, significant gap. Again, I think it's going to be a case of experience from Bobby. Obviously, respect to Drickus as well, an opponent, because any mistake can prove costly in this game. But Whittaker hasn't really made a lot of mistakes recently, ever since he lost that one in Marvel
yeah,
against Adesanya. He's basically been near flawless, I think,
yeah.
in his approach and his game plan, all of those things. How do you see this one finishing?
Oh, it's a good one. And I agree with you, by the way, right? Like, I mean, even in that loss to Adesanya in the second one, we still saw how much he had improved from that first fight against Adesanya. Obviously, it was a tough fight for him to be knocked out in home soil and then to come back and sort of do a 5 rounder. Again, a very close fight. A lot of split fans with decisions either saying Rob won that fight or Izzy won that fight. But look, I agree, man. He's been getting better and better with each performance. Like he dismantled Vittori or anyone else who's been put in front of him. Um, I also think you it's very hard to find someone as well rounded as Robert Whittaker. I mean, wherever the fight goes, his striking is second to no one. That 1-2 head kick is a piece of art. We got two of the best well-rounded fighters in this card actually, which is Alexander Volkanovski and Robert Whittaker, and they obviously come from Australia, which is great for us. In terms of how the fight goes, I do think Duplessis is very resilient. So I don't think it's going to be as easy to knock him out or get him out of there. Um, I do think it goes to distance, 3 rounds, and I think it's going to be a decision. But I think it's going to be a fairly comfortable decision for Robert Whittaker.
Yep, I agree. Obviously, the 3 rounders, also what he's been specializing in recently, and getting those points.
Yeah,
Getting the scorecard ticking up real
yeah,
quick. Obviously, you got to get off to a really good start, but that's going to be action packed, and I can't
yeah,
wait to see that one. And then we have another Oceanic fighter, Dan Hooker from the
yeah,
New Zealand area versus Jalen Turner. What
yeah.
kind of challenge do you think this is going to give Hooker?
Man, like I mean, we haven't seen Hooker in a minute. Obviously, he's taken some time away, which is great because I think what he's gone and done, he's revamped, sort of recharged, and he's coming back now. He's going up against Jalen Turner. They were scheduled to fight previously and uh, fell through. Jalen Turner is no joke, man.
Yeah,
Like this guy is
yeah,
really good, quite big
yeah,
and rangy for that division, 155 pounds. Um, he had a close fight against Gamrot, which he lost. He got Brad Riddell out of there in no time last time they fought. So, look, no easy task for Dan Hooker to come back to, but it's absolutely the right matchup. So, like, if Dan Hooker can get through Jalen Turner, it brings him back into that top 10, to the upper end of that division and sort of starting to make a claim again for a title run, right? Because, in these divisions where the talent is so packed, right? You just need a couple of good wins, and then you're back up there in that conversation. And it seems like Dan Hooker is, quite hell bent on wanting to go for that title shot again.
yeah,
Man, like as a fighter, Dan Hooker is as talented as they come, right? Again, like I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. One of my all-time favorite fights would be that Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier fight. Uh, an amazing fight. I love that fight. Sort of and then we've also had clinics from Dan Hooker as well, where he just goes and dismantles his opponents. So yeah, look,
Mm.
Jalen Turner's been working hard himself. He's been working with Hamza Chimaev up in Abu Dhabi as well. Upping his game. So again, like I said, it's not going to be an
Yep.
easy task, man. So yeah, it's gonna be a cracker fight.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Turner is the favorite, 140 to 290 for Hooker. But yeah, I think it would be really impressive if Hooker is able to pull out this victory because
Yep,
Turner presents a lot of challenges, with range
yep,
and obviously skill as well. So
yep,
yeah, I'd be really impressed if Hooker can win this one, and then he can obviously maybe mount that run. But
yep.
I think that's a main card fight, and then Bo Nickel was supposed to fight his opponent that
Both.
pulled out. Yep.
Yeah,
Now it's Valentine Woodburn. What are your
yep,
thoughts on this? He's a dollar four to
yeah,
11.50
yeah, man. It's one of
Woodburn.
the I saw those odds and I'm like, whoa. But hey, look, I'm not surprised. So it's not Bo Nickel's fault by any means. Everyone's wanting to see, what happens if the competition gets better. Can Bo Nickel, do the same level of damage? The same? Can he have the same level of success? Unfortunately, we're not able to see that yet. Like obviously, Trayshawn Gore was no, he's not a top 10 fighter yet, but he is quite good. He was in the tough season when Volkanovski versus Ortega were running that show. He was arguably like the best in that show, and then people expected him to win the tough title, but he got injured and all those kind of things. He then had to pull out because it seems like he has some serious injuries nursing, and he's got to do a surgery. So we wish him well and a speedy recovery. But that means obviously a last minute replacement. Bo Nickel is a tough person to beat because of his style. We see these fighters who come with the wrestling heavy style, and when I say wrestling heavy, they're absolutely great wrestlers, like the likes of Khabib, right, Kamaru Usman, right, where they're so good there that they're able to bring the fight there whenever they want the fight to come down there, right? And Bo Nickel's one of them. So it's already a tough task to go against someone like that, and then to see the opponent change. Obviously, I believe Val Woodburn's making his debut. He is undefeated outside of the UFC, but it's just a tough ask for him to come in on 7 days' notice to beat someone as good as Bo Nickel, man. But yeah, look, um, yeah, they kept the matchup, but yeah, it's not as interesting. On those question marks are not there anymore. It's like, okay, what happens when someone aggressive or someone
Mm.
who can withstand that pressure takes you on?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, let's see how quickly he can finish his opponent. But the
Yeah.
feature prelim, another action-packed fight for our guy, Perth native Jack Della Maddalena,
Yep.
facing Josiah Harrell.
Yep. Again, another late replacement because he was meant to fight Sean Brady. Sean Brady had an
Mm.
elbow injury and had to pull out. Again, we wish him well and a speedy recovery. But yeah, man, look, Jack Della Maddalena is too good. He's too good, right? It's just a matter of time before we see him in that top five, right? I honestly felt that he was going to get through Sean Brady in outstanding fashion. It's
Yep.
just, if anything, it's just you delayed that a little bit because we've got Josiah who's stepping in again, another UFC debut, undefeated, I believe. Yes, 7-0. And coming in to take again another extremely talented fighter. I mean, man, Jack Della Maddalena is probably one of the top five best strikers in the UFC at the moment, right? I mean, I think, yeah, he gets the job done real quick, to be honest. And I think hopefully we can see a quick turnaround in Sydney where he fights him because he fought Randy Brown in kind of like a step back now. He is fighting a debutant. But yeah, I think we might, given hopefully the fight goes as kind of we envision it to go, and then we see him do a quick turnaround and fight another big name in Sydney.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're gonna see him very soon in that top five. That's what I believe. Um,
We have to.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we really have to, and I think he deserves it. And I agree
yeah,
with you. I think he was going to defeat Brady, but
yeah,
it's just disappointing we're not going to get to see that. But hopefully,
yeah.
yeah, he definitely gets that huge opponent down under after running through this guy. But what else stands out to you from the rest
Man,
of the card?
I mean, I want to talk about the fight that's gonna cap off the prelims. The fight itself is exciting too, but more so the fighter who's involved in it. So Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price. We've got the veteran Robbie Lawler, you know, doing his last fight in the UFC. He's gonna, wrap up a storied career, a very dominant welterweight champion. Had some stellar performances, stellar fights with the fight with Condit. Um, the fight that stands out the most, obviously, is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame was against Rory McDonald. Him and Rory McDonald, that 5 round war, and so obviously got the finish over McDonald at the end. But they were both bloody, bruised, and battered. Lawler had a ripped lip, and he was still screaming at the top of his lung. He didn't. Neither fighter took a back step, and that's the sort of fighter Robbie Lawler is. Extremely aggressive. Once that cage door closes, man, there's no two ways about Robbie Lawler. The last time we saw him win was against Nick Diaz. That was a Legends matchup, and then obviously he unfortunately suffered a loss in his last fight, I believe against Brian Barberena. Now he's going against Nico Price again, a very similar fighter, but obviously a younger version of, you can even say, of Robbie Lawler.
Oh yeah, yep,
So it is a tough matchup for him. But then again, in his style, he never took an easy fight, and
yeah,
that's how he's going to hang up his gloves. And man, all the respect to him. Started his career with the UFC, started his fighting career in 2001, but started with the
mm,
UFC in 2002. Obviously, he's been in and out a bit, but man, he's been here since 2000. You can argue he started with the UFC in 2002. He's finishing in 2023. That's just insane to think. For 21 years, man, what a legend. I'll be definitely watching that fight, and hopefully it is a good fight, and he can sign off with a win. But
yep,
like I said, a tough matchup. But all the respect to the legend.
definitely, yep, big
Yeah,
time fight. Nico Price exciting, $3 for Robbie Lawler, $1.30 for
yeah,
Price. So people
yeah. I
thinking,
thought that was the case.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be tough. But also
yeah,
Jimmy Crute has the rematch against Alonzo Menifield. What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that rematch?
Man, so this was a fight that took place in Perth, correct? Like the first fight,
Yep,
and then that was a
yeah,
draw, and now they're doing the rematch. I thought Jimmy Crute won that last fight. He came back from a surgery, a knee surgery, and then he came straight in, and then I thought he put in a good performance. But yeah, man, again, another exciting fighter from the land down under. Jimmy Crute's fights are always exciting. Again, a big prospect, man. Again, we're going to see him up there in the top of the division soon, in that light heavyweight division. It's a division that's seen a lot of change. The championship keeps getting changed, like the belt keeps changing hands as well. So I do think we will see Jimmy Crute at the top of that division. Um, yeah, look, I'm expecting him to walk away with the win. Yeah, I think he's going to make it look easy this time. CT, you're on mute.
yeah. Basically, the odds are really the same. 185 for
Yep.
Menefeld too. So they agree with you. It's going to be another case of hopefully we don't get another draw.
I think the odds are the product of that draw, but I like I said, I'm expecting Jimmy Crute to walk away easily with a win. I don't think it's going to be as close as last time. Um, but we also have another Aussie fighter in the card, Shannon Ross,
Yep.
taking on Jesus Aguilar. That's in the early prelims as well. Look, man, International Fight Week card. No reason for us not to tune in from that very first fight. But yeah, look, it's a stacked top to bottom card. So we also got
Yep.
Brickus's um, countrymate Cameron in the early prelims as well. So yeah, look, there's some good fights in there. A good card, a stacked card. a card worthy of International Fight Week. And look, I think the fights are going
Mm.
to deliver as well. If you look at most of these matchups, they're very well matched up, and they're just guaranteed fireworks.
Yeah, really, really. This sets the tone for the rest of the month, and a
Yeah,
huge card. Yeah, we got Yasmin versus Denise Gomez too.
yeah.
For the I think for the ladies in that one, but really looking forward to it. What's the one you're looking forward to the most though? Before we sign off.
Man, I can't pick one. I honestly can't pick one. I'm gonna go with the top three. I'm gonna go with the top three.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the last three fights of the night. Rob Whittaker, Dricus Duplessis, Moreno, Pantoja, and the the main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair
yeah.
Rodriguez. Right? I
It
mean,
can't dispute that. It sets up a lot to
yeah,
for the rest of this year and where they're gonna fall. But
yeah,
Volkanovski, yeah, I really want to see that Islam rematch. So
man.
I love,
Yeah, you're right. I think
yeah,
they're gunning for that as well because Wolf wants it. I think the UFC wants it too. There's a reason. If you really look at it, there's two reasons why they haven't announced Islam's opponent for Abu Dhabi, which is in October. Because I know Oliveira had a great fight, and I know Dana spoke highly about it and said, look, that makes sense. But the reason they're still waiting is to see, like, what if Volkanovski just goes and demolishes Yair Rodriguez, and then
yeah,
that takes a bigger claim given the big fight they had in February. And then we also have the Dustin versus Justin fight in
yep,
Utah as well, right? So there's a lot going on there. So look, either
mm,
way,
cool,
there's a lot of ramifications for future cards. The one gripe I have with this card, not so much as a gripe, but it's just unfortunate at the timing that we got so much Australian and New Zealand talent in this card, some big names, right? Realistically, it's 7 weeks away. Sydney is 7 weeks away, right? Realistically, that's not a time frame to do a proper training camp, especially if you're saying Robert Whittaker versus Dricus Duplessis. Whoever wins gets the champion in Sydney. That's 7 weeks to prepare for one of the best middleweight champions of all time. Well, I consider him the best middleweight champion of all time, right? To that's not enough time, like, and there's injuries that can take place. So we're not going to see a lot of these fighters, to be honest, right? And we'll talk more about it in our recap, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of these fighters in Sydney. I mean, I might even throw in an
yep.
early prediction there to say I think the Sydney main event is going to be Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that'd be huge.
yeah, that's what
Okay,
I'm thinking. Yeah,
wow, that's a
yeah.
bomb you left me with. I don't know what to say to that. I think Whitaker would feel hard done by again. That'd be a second
No,
card
no,
down under. That
no. Yeah,
you know,
yeah. No, I see where you're coming from. I think the fight, the Whitaker versus Duplessis fight, the winner definitely is guaranteed the next shot at. Sorry, is guaranteed a title shot. It may not necessarily be the next title shot,
yep.
right?
That
So,
yeah, I
so
agree. Yep, yep.
yeah, it's
I
just
completely
unfortunate
agree.
the timing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see unfortunate timing. So,
yeah.
yeah,
They
look,
just
we
need
still got
time
more
to
talent.
recover.
Yeah, absolutely, and we still got more Australian talent. Bam Bam is there, right? Justin Tuffer is
Yep.
going to be there. Kai Kara
Jack
Price is
could
already
probably turn
fighting.
it around.
Jack might, like, yeah, look, given he's got a short notice matchup as well, like his fights have always been quick. He takes zero to minimal damage, and I
Yep.
expect the same this time. So we
Yep.
might see him again.
Another thing is crazy is we've got the man from Epping, our Victorian boy, also fighting. Very soon.
Yeah,
Might miss out.
yeah, it could have been saved for the Australian card, I feel, but look, at the end of the day, though, like you gotta
Mm.
there is a schedule that the UFC follows, and then they plan it out. They're running the most successful fight promotion in the world, right? So you'd like to assume they know what's going
Yeah.
on, right? Yeah,
Yeah. That was of course the Celtic kid Jake Matthews I was referring to,
Matthews, yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
that just speaks to how much talent there is down under, where we could basically spread them all over the year and still stack cards. But
yeah.
yeah, Volkanovski, Adesanya, Whittaker, Bam Bam, like you said, here to
It's just
dominate.
it's not just talent, like it's top talent, right? These guys are either number one contenders or champions, right? Or have fought for championships or
Yeah.
fought number one contendership fights. Like they're up there among the best of the best. So I mean, it bodes well for our region, and I'm obviously absolutely proud these guys are representing us. These guys and girls obviously are representing us.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, we've got to sign off, and we can't wait for the recap. This is going to be a huge one, DJ. Um, just give us a facial reaction for how you think this card's going to go.
I'm gonna be like, just gonna be, you know,
Yeah,
fully pumped up, man. For Sunday, I'm gonna be pumped up. I'm gonna need no energy drinks, no pre-workout, right? UFC
yeah,
290 is on. I'm pumped up, start to
me
finish.
too. That's a tap. Don't miss it. CT and DJ will be back to recap it. For this one, it's a wrap.
Catch you later.